Hi everyone, thanks for attending the webinar. My name is Peter Baddeley, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how we achieve a great user experience in SharePoint and Office 365 and the important role a user has and the users in your organization have in defining that success and defining that great experience. So I wanted to start the webinar by just showing you a couple of Dilbert cartoons because I think they neatly set the scene about what we're going to talk about today. The first cartoon shows an example of how management, IT, whatever it might be, can develop a product, develop a service within an organization without actually considering what the user experience is going to be like, whether users will like that service, and whether they'll actually want to use it. The second cartoon looks at how organizations tend to set about solving the problem, making a solution more successful. That idea that moving to the cloud, virtualization, a technology solution will actually solve the problems of the user experience. So both of these cartoons, I hope, set the scene a little bit for what we're going to talk about today, that it's far too easy to ignore the user experience and see that technology solves problems or that you understand what users want without necessarily engaging with them. So today I've got quite a simple little agenda for us. Firstly, I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges coming from users. Secondly, I'll talk a little bit about the changing nature of SharePoint. And finally, I'm going to go through the keys to a great user experience to start to pull out some of those key considerations we need to think about when we're delivering a solution on SharePoint or Office 365. Okay. So firstly, the user challenges. I just want to throw out a few common challenges, terms, statements which I come across quite frequently while I'm working with my customers. Okay, so just to pick up on these points. Firstly, you obviously get users who will be going, I want a system to do this, I want a system to do this, help me do this process easier, make it easier for me to do X. But they'll also throw in other conditions around that. They'll want to use it on their iPad, on their mobile phone, when they're out on the road, make it easy to access wherever they are, because that's the device they're using all the time. They're used to using that device. Maybe it's their own iPad. Maybe it's a company iPad. And that experience when they're on their mobile device needs to be quick. Needs to feel like their internet and their performance they get at home, where they get quite quick internet. And it should be easy like the services they use at home. So it should be a bit easy to use like Netflix or Facebook. Familiar services to them. And it should be easy to find information, services, documents, whatever it needs they're looking for. It should be easy for them to find information in the solution. A bit Google-like, for want of a better word. Perhaps not the best phrase in a Microsoft webinar, but a bit Google-like. So we've got these user challenges going on. And the challenge and the assumption, which I want to challenge a little bit here, is the assumption that if we build it, they will come. So if we build a solution, they will come. The users will start using it. If we don't, we won't talk to them about it. We just build what we think they want, and they'll use it. Well, I think that's very naive. You can't think like that anymore. The world of IT has very much changed. Gone are the days where IT would deliver these big systems, which took them 6 months to develop these systems, and they decided what the business needed. Nowadays, business and the user base are the ones who are driving requirements. They're driving need. They can go out and subscribe to their own services if they want to. They could go and buy Box, they could go and buy Dropbox, they could buy Salesforce. They can go and buy these services which they perceive as a quick way to solve a specific problem they've got. The users are very much the king in this scenario. They're going to choose whether they want to adopt your service or not, use your solution. Users are generally a lot more intelligent. They're more tech savvy. They're used to choosing and building their own experiences. If you sit down with someone who's maybe got an iPad or an iPhone, you look at how they've built their own experience on those devices. They've chosen the apps, they've chosen the services they want to subscribe to. They've decided whether they want Netflix, Amazon Prime. They've decided whether they're going to use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. They've picked and built that experience, and they've got used to that experience on that device and being able to pick and build and change and adapt that experience as well. And as I mentioned earlier, it's easy just to see going cloud as a quick fix to the solution, which doesn't necessarily solve the problems and make the user experience suddenly better. So there's a changing world of IT. Also here is a changing world of SharePoint. So SharePoint's changing as well. In the past, you could maybe operate SharePoint on a relatively low budget. You could get away with 1 or 2 SharePoint servers. Maybe you ran Foundation. You did some simple basic intranets and document management. That's changed a lot over the last couple of years. SharePoint 2013 on-prem is expensive. It's complicated. You need a lot of servers, servers for search, servers for web apps, servers for BI, servers for workflow. Those servers have a lot of resources, a lot of memory. There's a lot of licenses to purchase. There's a lot of skills required to set all of these things up. That can become quite expensive for organizations. Now, in the past, like I said, a lot of organizations might have been able to deploy the Foundation version of SharePoint, WSS before that. Well, currently, it doesn't look like we're going to get one in 2016. So that option's slipping away from organizations. So many organizations on older versions of SharePoint, SharePoint 2010 or earlier, are now facing this problem of how they move forwards, when suddenly they've got to spend a lot more money to build a platform to support what they need. And this is also in the background, set against the background of Microsoft pushing a lot of their investment into Office 365, Azure, this cloud platform. This is where a lot of the new features will come first. And SharePoint and this cloud-driven approach is very much user experience driven. Focus on delivering experiences which are consistent across platforms, whether it's Windows, iOS, Android, whether that's a PC, a tablet, or a phone. So the whole world of SharePoint has changed a lot and is continuing to change on a regular basis. If you look at the way Office 365 is frequently updated with new features and new functionality. So we've got this changing world of IT, and we've got this changing nature of SharePoint. So what I start to talk to people about and some of my customers about is where you fit currently and where you're going to. I like to talk about 3 different types of SharePoint platforms. 3 different approaches to delivering solutions on SharePoint. The first one is adopting the Microsoft Cloud. And what this means is picking your suite of Office 365 services. Maybe you choose to have OneDrive and Exchange. Maybe someone else has Sites, CRM, Yammer. you're picking the services you want and building the solution right for you, the right platform for you. Part of adopting this platform is you accept that it's changing. You accept there's going to be changes, enhancements. You might not like all of those. A bit like Facebook when it changes. You might not like the changes. And you're accepting that you build solutions within certain boundaries. Maybe you're working with the app model. You're not going mad with your customizations and your branding and other things like that, which perhaps aren't suited to the changing nature of Office 365. So that's option one, sort of adopting the Microsoft Cloud approach. The second SharePoint platform is around building out your own SharePoint 2013 or soon 2016 platform on someone's prem, I like to say. So it could be servers in your own data center. It could be in someone else's data center. It could even be on Azure, but you're building a specific platform. You're building a specific platform suitable for your use. And you're deciding how you'll progress this platform, how you'll update it, how you enhance it. The third option in terms of platforms is that you're still on a legacy platform. So you're still using SharePoint 2010 or earlier, and there's maybe reasons why you can't move forward. Maybe there's infrastructure restrictions. Maybe there's complications in your functionality. But you're starting to develop with a future mindset. So you're starting to develop solutions now which are, let's say, more friendly to being upgraded to 2013 or migrated to Office 365. There's also a fourth option. And the fourth option is a mixture of 2 or 3 of the other options. Maybe you've got some stuff on-prem and you've got some stuff in Office 365. Maybe you've got some stuff in 2010 and some stuff in 2013. Perhaps this is the most actually common scenario I'm seeing at the moment. This is totally okay to having this sort of mixed platform. And there's several reasons you could have a mixed platform. Firstly, maybe it's a hybrid solution. Maybe you're in transition. Maybe you're currently migrating to the cloud or migrating from 2010 to 2013. Or maybe having multiple platforms is the quickest way to deliver specific solutions. So maybe there's a specific thing you want to do, maybe external sharing, and you can deliver something very quick and rapid in Office 365 without migrating all of your existing on-prem content and functionality up to Office 365. As I said previously, this is okay, but do understand what this means. Understand what this means in terms of how do you manage these different platforms, how do you deliver a good user experience across these platforms. Okay, so talked a little bit about the user challenges, the changing nature of SharePoint. I've talked a little bit about SharePoint platforms. To sort of set this technology scene in which we're trying to deliver a solution. And now I want to touch and move on to some of these key things you need to consider in terms of delivering a great user experience, getting users engaged in the system so that you can deliver more success. And first and most importantly, what is the user need and what does the business need? So what do the users need a system to do? And how does that relate to what the business is trying to achieve as well? How do those align? By understanding those and by delivering a solution which the user wants but actually solves a business problem, you'll be a long way towards success. You've got these higher level ideas, but then also remember you've got what your project requirement is and what your project need is. It might take you several projects, it might take you a phased delivery to meet all of these requirements. So understand your higher level overall objectives, but then also what your immediate project requirements are. There are actually many things to consider. Think about the user interface, the user environment, performance, user support. I'm going to drill into a few of these points now and talk a little bit about each of those in turn. But before I do, I want to emphasize to you that it's not all about SharePoint. So this webinar is primarily about SharePoint, but it's important to recognize it's not all about SharePoint. There are many other components now which make up the story and make up the user experience. Office is an important part of the story now. Whether that's the Office client, apps on mobile devices, such as iPads apps for Office, Android apps for Office. Maybe it's the web browser experience through web apps Office Online. Think also about some of the supporting technologies, browsers, different browser versions, SQL database, SQL platform which supports this, other integrating technology which underpins SharePoint, the workflow engine, maybe. Also, think about other related technology, which is certainly very relevant in 365, but also might be relevant with your on-prem solutions as well. Exchange, Dynamics CRM, Skype for Business, or maybe even things like custom web front ends. Maybe you've got a custom web application, website, which connects to your SharePoint platform, maybe delivers SharePoint in a specific way to users, maybe just delivers a bit of content from SharePoint in a specific custom interface, which is easier to deliver through another platform. So many other different components which make up the story. So the first thing to think about is what those technologies which make up your solution is, because those technologies all have user experience considerations. Now moving on to some specific considerations around SharePoint. Firstly, what will it look like? There's obviously been this long debate for quite a while about branding, look and feel around SharePoint, and that's certainly part of the story. But there's other aspects to the story as well. Think about what your user interface requirements are, what value it gives. So does branding SharePoint, does putting your company look and feel on it give you significant value? And how will it fit with the platform which you're using? So how will branding fit with Office 365, that changing nature of Office 365? And will it affect your performance in terms of SharePoint? So will a lot of branding, a lot of CSS, a lot of JavaScript slow your page loads down? And does it make sense maybe to move those incredibly customized look and feel pages into web pages outside of SharePoint, maybe which you've got more control over? That's certainly something we've done for a number of our customers. Next key consideration for a great user experience is mobile. Mobile's one of the hot topics at the moment, certainly within Microsoft, but also within a number of projects I'm working on at the moment. But don't assume mobile, or at least don't assume mobile means iPads and iPhones. It might do, but it might not do. Mobile is different for different organizations. So when you're looking at mobile in your solution and how the mobile experience increases that engagement with your users, think about what devices will be used. Maybe it is tablets, but maybe it's laptops. Maybe it's phones. Think about some considerations around that. Whose devices are those? So do they belong to the business, or are they the user's own devices? How will you manage those devices, especially if they're the users? There's a few key considerations around this. So on these mobile devices, what browsers will be being used? Will apps be used? Which apps? How will they connect to the solution? How will they authenticate to the solution? All these things which you need to understand, so you understand what experience they'll be operating under, what constraints they might be operating under. Helps you to understand it and helps you to be able to support the users and deliver a better user experience for them. Related to the mobile challenge is speed, and especially internet speed. And if anything, this can be one of the biggest issues for user experience. If it's slow, users will lose interest very quickly. So we need to think about lots of different things to make that experience better. We need to understand where our users are accessing from. So is it from the office? Is it from home? Is it from branch offices? Where are they going to? So is it to servers in your head office? Is it out to the cloud? What are they accessing from? So again, we've talked about mobile devices, but what platform are they coming from? So we're thinking about all these different things to help us to understand what the internet speed experience is going to be like for the users, how quick pages can load. But then from that, we need to think about how can we test, how can we validate that experience and understand from our users what they expect. So how quickly do they expect the system to load? How quickly do they expect to do certain operations? And what expectations have we set with the users around that speed, around that performance? And that links nicely into defining what success is, understanding what success is, measuring that success. To throw out a few examples of success. The system should make it easier to do this in comparison to. The system should load in X number of seconds. The performance should be the same for all users. The performance should be the same when I'm not in the office. Data can be recovered in an hour, 5 minutes. There's no hard and fast rule. You're defining what success is. So you're defining that success. You're making sure that it's realistic. So don't set a success criteria which you can't meet. Work out how you're going to monitor that success. So does that require tooling? Does that require engaging with the user base and seeing whether they're actually getting that experience, that success which you've defined? So communicate with your users to get their feedback, but also to define and explain to them what the expectations from the system should be, and continue to improve that. So if you set a certain page load time or certain recovery time, think about how you can improve on that moving forwards. So define what your success criteria are, measure them, and communicate them. Which leads neatly on to education and support. So we must train our users both in how to use the solution, but also how it fits in with the business. We must work out how we continue to educate the user base as the system changes, as new functionality comes along. How do we know about that functionality as well? If we're on an Office 365 platform, how do we know about those changes, those enhancements? And secondly, support. So how are we going to support the system? What's our support model? Will it be centralized? Will it be decentralized with power users out in the organization? And what boundaries are we operating in? So is there certain things which we can't support? Is there certain things we maybe need to go out to Microsoft for support? And again, setting expectations. If it takes 2 days to recover something, set that expectation. The business might not like that, and they might give you some more money to be able to set a better expectation, but communicate those expectations. So I very briefly touched on a number of the key considerations for user experience. I hope you understand there's quite a lot to think about. And what I say to a lot of my customers is you need to consider all of these things. And what you need to do before you embark on your project is build a roadmap. What's your roadmap for delivering your solution moving forwards? There's not a right or wrong answer. There's not a right platform or a wrong platform. There's not a specific mobile device you should use or not. It's understanding your requirements, challenging those requirements as well, and considering all components of the user experience to build the roadmap which is right for you, whilst understanding the Microsoft vision, still building that strategy and roadmap which is right for you in terms of your requirements, in terms of commercial considerations, including technology constraints as well. And one final important point when you're building this roadmap is to think about what tools you will need, what add-ons, what vendor components, solutions will aid you with delivering a good user experience. And this can include a number of things. This can include migration, backup, performance monitoring, performance improvement, system administration and maintenance. Evaluate those tools which are appropriate for you. There are many different tools out there and they have their various strengths and weaknesses, and some will be more suited for you. Consider those costs associated with those tools versus the value in one of two areas. So firstly, implementation. Does it make it quicker and easier and more cost effective to implement your solution? And or does it make the user experience better by having those solutions in place? Does it mean you can deliver a better solution because of those tools, or do those tools enable you to monitor what the users are experiencing and as a result act on that to deliver a better experience? So as part of your roadmap and as part of your solution, tools are a really key aspect to that. And some of those tools, which we're going to show you, are around performance management. And with that, I'll hand over to Mick and he can show you some of those tools. Thank you.